In the game of football, there are winners and there are losers.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
In the game of business, there are winners and there are losers.
What we want to do is make a leapfrog product that is way smarter than any mobile device has ever been and super easy to use. This is what iPhone is. Okay?
And in the game of politics, there are winners and there are losers.
We will have so much winning that you may get bored with winning. Believe me, I agree. You'll never get bored with winning. We never get bored.
And on today's show, the marketing guru and best-selling author Phillip Stutts teaches us how to create a game-changing and winning marketing strategy.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we'll show you.
Thrive Nation, you are going to love today's show. This man, Mr. Phillip Stutts, is the best-selling author of Fire Them Now, an Amazon bestseller, and one of the masterminds, Z, behind the curtain of political marketing. With more than 20 years of political and marketing experience, Stutts has worked with Fortune 200 companies and has over 2 decades of experience working with billions of dollars in political ad spend, and he's contributed to helping candidates win over 1,000 election victories, including the U.S. House campaigns, dozens of U.S. Senate campaigns, and even 3 U.S. presidential victories. Zay, I'm excited.
Well, should we refer to him as, here's the 2 phrases I've been kind of working on, okay?
Okay.
The two that I think most apt, represent Mr. Stutts. Is he the puppeteer or is he the kingmaker?
And he's been on the Gary Vee Show. He's been on the Dr. Drew podcast, MSNBC, ESPN, CNN, Fox News. Phillip Stutts, welcome onto the show, sir. How are you?
I'm all of them.
He's actually a puppet maker.
He's a puppet.
Okay.
I'm ready to roll, boys. Ready to roll.
Let's do it. I'm excited. I'm fired up.
I'm going to start off with the tough questions, the offensive ones first. Phillip, your career is massive. It's epic. However, I would love to start today's show by starting at the very beginning of your career and when you first launched your career. I mean, what was your first job out of school?
My first job was the 1996 Republican National Convention out in San Diego, representing and working for Bob Dole in the President Clinton's reelection campaign against him. And that was, I will tell you this, I went out there because I only love 2 things in my life, college sports and politics. And I went out from Alabama, so I moved out to California. Yep, I moved out there, California, for the first time in my life at 22 to work on this convention that was going, this Republican, political presidential convention. And I just fell in love with it. When you work in politics, this is going to sound crass, but it's true. It's like smoking crack cocaine. And let me explain why. Because you want to get off the pipe, but you can't. And everybody that has ever worked in politics, and I'm dead serious, this is what we all say in politics, is like when the campaign ends and you end up working for a presidential campaign or a big race and you put all your love and energy and passion and purpose into getting someone elected, and then it's over, and there was like a 3-year period in my career where I literally had like 21 days off total. And when that campaign ends, all you want to do is sleep, and you say, I will never do that again. And then about a week later, you go, man, where's my next hit? I got to get on another campaign. And that's literally what it's like to work on one.
I have to ask you this because in 2007, when I received the Entrepreneur of the Year for the state of Oklahoma, and then in 2008, there was a U.S. Chamber Award for quality. And I got asked to fly out there to D.C. to meet some of these people. And so I'll mention the really great people I met. I had a great, I really enjoyed meeting Jim Inhofe. I met Tom Coburn. I met some really neat people. But there was a lot of people I met where I said, oh no, how did you get in office? I mean, there's a lot of
What are you doing here?
a lot of people that, I mean, I remember there was a guy who was supposed to give a keynote, Philip, to a group of small business owners, and he is still in office today, I believe. And this guy was talking about the inequality of the bowl series. You know how at this point we didn't have a playoff system for the bowls, and he was going on a rant about what he's doing to fix the bowl series and fix it and change it, and everyone in the audience who's a small business owner was like, why is he talking about that? But again, so it seemed like there was a detachment between the politicians representing the people who had voted for them. Could you talk to us from an insider perspective? Do you feel like many politicians are truly that detached from their constituencies, or do you think that most politicians are pretty dialed in? Or I'd just like to get your take, kind of the behind-the-scenes look, because you are behind the curtains.
Scenes.
So I would tell you this, like, if you see these polls that like Congress has like a 7% approval rate, but then you say, but what about your congressman? And they go, oh yeah, I love that guy. He's like 75% approval rating, or that congresswoman. And that is typically what you see. And I've been fortunate enough. I have not worked for any duds. There have been a couple duds along the way, and I fired them because, you're either doing this for the right reasons or you're not. And that's, those people that you talk about, they absolutely exist. I've avoided those, and I'm kind of proud to say I haven't done a lot of those kind of campaigns or worked for a lot of politicians like that.
Z has a hot question for you.
I got to know. Wandering minds, curious minds have to know. You say you're big into sports. You say you're from Alabama. Are you a Roll Tide or are you a War Eagle?
I'm a University of Alabama graduate, so you can.
War Eagles. Well, December 29th, we're Oklahoma. I'm a big OU fan.
Yeah.
And we made it in. So, and so it's on like.
Do
Donkey
I smell
Kong.
a watch party?
I think so. Are you going to the game? And if so, can you get me a really good seat?
In the Alabama section, you got it.
All right, perfect.
Got to wear a Bama shirt.
It's red. It's red. It's all red.
Philip, I want to ask you this question now. This next question here, before we get into the more about your career. I just have one more question. This question might come across as passive aggressive.
That's how you roll, though.
Philip, what percentage of your strategies are derived directly from the plot line of House of Cards?
0.0.
Just,
you don't have a rowing machine.
That one scene where he pushes the girl into the subway. I've seen that 100 times.
Wow. Oh yeah, who hasn't?
That's not a good strategy. All right, so we move on. Okay, so when did you begin focusing on becoming an expert political marketer? When did that idea occur to you?
Yeah, we're the ultimate startup company. Political campaigns start at zero in the polls, or zero name ID, or zero brand awareness. They start with $0. Most candidates are not self-funders. They have to raise money. And when you get on these campaigns, you have to learn to do it all. I mean, again, ultimate startup company. You start with zero, you build it, to hopefully 6, 7, 8 figures. And then the one difference is you have to spend every dime within about a 9-month period of raising it. And, I was fortunate enough to be in every aspect of that on the political campaigns. And I just fell in love with it and started realizing that because, I noticed this also, Clay, on your website, but you talk about speed a lot. And I think that's one of the key differentiators in politics and the way that people market in politics, because we have election day. There's this ultimate deadline. It's a scorecard. And because we're running political campaigns for, in the government, we have to report all of our expenditures. I have to report for every candidate I work for. So all of my competitors know who I work for, and they are going to savage me after the campaign if I lose a race. If I win a race, then I can go around bragging and, doing everything I need to do to promote and market my own business.
Peacock.
And when you think like that, first of all, you put your clients' outcomes first every time, because you got to win or you're out of business. And you only succeed if they succeed. And so those principles were one of the main reasons I wrote the book. But those principles are lost in today's marketing economy. And I just felt like, you know what? We don't get a lot of things right in politics, but the way we market to voters, it's the same thing as you should be doing to marketing to customers. And so that's sort of the point of it.
I tell you, that is fascinating because, according to Forbes, which is kind of our business Bible, 80 to 90% of businesses fail. And I think they fail because they don't have the mindset of what you just said, Philip Stutz. And that is, we have to win or we're out of business.
True.
I'm
So,
judged
you know,
on the latest, greatest thing I've just done.
Yeah, the subtitle of the book is The 7 Lies Digital Marketers Sell. And like one of them is this. In over 20 years of political and corporate marketing, I have never had a long-term contract. Every contract I have in politics is month to month. Every single one. There's no way I can get out of it. That is how every contract for any vendor or any marketer in politics works. And when I translated that over to business, I was shocked because here's the deal. If my contract is every single month, and anybody can, my clients can fire me at any time, how much more responsive and innovative and quick, fast am I going to move for them versus, hey, I got a 12-month contract. I'm going to go home early tonight. Like, that doesn't happen for me because I'm dead on the corporate side or the political side if I'm not producing results.
Philip, during your career, you've worked with both businesses and politicians for helping them with their marketing needs. From your perspective, what do politicians know about marketing that most business owners don't?
I call it the 3 R's, okay? And if every business owner adopted these 3 R's, they would have explosive business. And just as proof, I loaned myself less than 4 years ago $100,000 to start my marketing agency. We built it to over $20 million in less than 4 years on the 3 R's. And that is reputation, relationships, and referrals. And if everybody looked at their marketing in those 3 ways, they would have transformational results. I have never, not one time, have I ever run an ad for my own company. Everything I do is based on my reputation, which then helps me build relationships, which then gets me referrals. Everything I do. And if you think about it, that's where I learned that from politics. Because the candidate has to build the relationship with the voters, right?
The 3 R's. 3 R's.
And the reputation is the status. You have to build status. So the reputation is the status that candidate delivers, the relationship he builds with voters. Listen, the one thing we forget about today's marketing is you got to build the relationship, not an online relationship, a personal relationship. Politicians go out and they do town halls and they walk in parades and they go door to door and they get to know voters. Now, in the state of Florida, if you're running for a statewide office, you can't get to know every voter. But so that's when your creative comes in play, and you've got to create unbelievable connecting creative that really drives home, just like we would in politics. Listen, I always say this, like, people hate negative ads in politics, but we do it because it works. We know how to make that connection with the voter to go, I don't want that guy. And so that is the thing. And then when you do all of those, it becomes a referral system. And in politics, the way it works is the politician has the reputation, he builds the relationship, and then those relationships go out and refer their friends, their family to vote for that candidate. Now, when I translated that into my own business, that is what has grown as 200% or maybe it's 2,000% or whatever it is. From that initial investment to over $20 million business, because that's all we focus on. If I can build a reputation and I can build relationships, then I'm going to get everything through referrals. And that's sort of how I would tell businesses more than anything else.
I want to read a notable quotable to you from Robert Greene, the best-selling author of 48 Laws of Power. And I'd like to get your take on this about reputation. He writes, "Reputation is the cornerstone of power. Through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable and will be attacked on all sides. Make your reputation unassailable. Always be alert to potential attacks and thwart them before they happen." With your career, how have you protected your reputation? Or maybe when was a time that your reputation was attacked and you had to defend it?
I don't know if my reputation has ever been attacked. And I don't mean that like I'm mistake-free. I make a lot of mistakes. But I would tell you that if anything, my reputation was probably been under fire within my own company a long time ago because I was a terrible manager. I treated people poorly, and I was pretty selfish. And I don't, your listeners may not know, but I have an incurable disease that I'm fighting through right now. And through that diagnosis, I sort of flipped the switch and I decided to live a different life. And because of that, it has drawn me closer to listening to people, to being present for people. And it's really probably made my reputation a little bit better. The other part of this is our whole business is about winning. I think it gets lost in the business world when it's talked about, hey, what's your brand management and all that kind of stuff. We care about winning or losing. Are you winning or losing? And my reputation and the company we built is bigger because we win a lot more than we've lost. I'm trying to think of this. We've won 206 political races in the last 2 years. And I think we had something like 250 clients. We didn't win them all, but we won a lot more than we lost. And that ensures my reputation. People want to build relationships because I'm winning. And they want to give me business because they want to be with someone that wins rather than someone that doesn't win. And so when we translated that over to business, we've had explosive results for companies.
So I've heard you say, and again, if I'm getting out of context or messing it up, I don't want to mess with your reputation. But I've heard you say that this rare disease has actually saved your life. Are you at liberty to share this about this disease and what you mean by that when you say it's actually saved your life?
Yeah. I mean, and I'll even go further. If you gave me the chance to go back to 2012 and I was diagnosed with this rare esophageal disease called achalasia, I would say, and you said, hey, we're going to go back to 2012 and you don't have to have this. And you can just start your life from that point on without the disease. I take the disease every time, because what happened with the disease is, like a lot of business owners, I stuck my head in the sand for a long time. I modeled poor behavior from people in my past, and I explained what those results were. And the disease sort of woke me up. People don't make a lot of change until the pain is too strong, right? And unfortunately, I had to feel a lot of pain to change, and I beg people now, try not to be in that position, whether it be in your health or your marriage or your personal life or your work. And basically, I've gone through this for 5 years, this disease, guys. I did nothing. I knew I had an incurable disease, and I did not even Google the disease once. I basically listened to my doctors from the Mayo Clinic. I took the medications that have long-term dementia effects, but they work in the short term, and I went on my way. And then about 2 years ago, those same doctors told me, you're going to be on a feeding tube in about 5 years. And I said, whoa, I don't want to do that. And by the way, I'm 44 now. And I said, well, I don't want to be on a feeding tube in my 40s. And they said, well, your disease is what it is. Take your medicine and we'll see you in 6 months. And I just decided I had to live a different life. That has changed everything for me. It's changed the way that I look and build relationships. It changed the way I'm transparent about whatever I do. And it really has enhanced my life. It has made my life better. The long story short, I decided after that doctor's visit that I wanted to find a cure to the disease that has never had a cure before. And it's a rare disease. So you can imagine there's no money behind a cure or research. But I said, screw it, I'm going to try it anyway. And over the last 2 years, I worked with a bunch of doctors. We've assembled a team around me. And come January, I'm going to start at Johns Hopkins the first ever one-man clinical trial where they will insert stem cells into my esophagus to try to regenerate what is basically a dead esophagus. And it's never been done on animals. It's never been done on people. I don't know what's going to happen. It may work. It may not. I don't know. But you can imagine that I go for it. And I live I'm very grateful for the life I have. I'm very grateful for the people that supported me along the way. And none of that would have happened had I not been diagnosed with a disease. And what I'm really passionate about is that we are in such a disruptive moment in history. And so many business owners are not taking, and you see this in your own coaching business, they are stuck. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They know this disruptive economy is happening. They know their business may be disrupted and they're not changing.
Right.
And I felt compelled to talk to those people and tell them my story.
I feel like there's a big separation that's happening right now. There's a plumber, let's say, who is good at plumbing. And back in the day, he used to be able to get to the customer by advertising in a magazine or advertising in the Yellow Pages or just putting up a sign. But now, because 90% of people are marketing are going online to search for the products and services they're looking to buy, the plumber is now separated from his customers. And I think what's allowed you to become successful, and Dr. Z and a lot of entrepreneurs who've had success over the decades, is you have changed with those times. And Z, your optometry clinic, when you started out, it was all yellow page ads, right? I mean, it was all yellow page ads and newspaper ads.
Every night you throw in a value pack, a billboard,
But yet, Z, you've done well over the last several decades, and you have a question for a fellow marketing guru, Mr. Philip Stutz. What's your next question?
Yeah, Philip, I got two questions for you. Well, it's actually the same question, but it's two different categories. In your mind, what's your biggest victory on the political, the political business side of your life? And what's the biggest victory on the business? Taking your personal business out of it, a business you've coached. What's the business? And you can say as much about them as you can. But what were your two biggest victories in those two genres?
I was the national Get Out the Vote director for President Bush's reelection in 2004. Wow. So that was a pretty incredible night, especially because the early exit polling had come back saying John Kerry was going to win the election. And so, for a year of my life, I did nothing but go around to states all over the country and help put together their sort of marketing campaigns to get out the vote. And that was a pretty special moment for me back in 2004. And then on the business side, so one of the things that I think we get in politics, and I hope business owners understand this, there's not much difference between these two worlds. How we look at voters, when I meet with a candidate, in politics, the first thing I say is, well, what do you believe? And then I'm going to go find out through research what the voters believe. And then I'm going to find out where there's alignment. And that's how I'm going to put together a marketing campaign for that political candidate. And in business, you'd be shocked by how many people have come to us, businesses, and say, we bought this product. We got 30 leads for $10,000. And I go, well, how'd that work out for you? And they go, we didn't get it. Those were bad leads, so it didn't really work for us. And my thing is, everything starts with a strategy, and everything starts with what your customers feel. And so the win that I have on business is we worked with a $20 million company who had built their business on a marketing campaign that they guessed. And they guessed it, for discounts, and they guessed it during the economic downturn in 2008 to 2011. And they built this company very quickly and very big. And then all of a sudden they had this complete stop. I mean, it was like a screeching halt. And they haven't stopped marketing to discounts for years, and they couldn't figure it out. And they came to us and they said, we've spent $1.6 million in the last 2 years, and we've actually lost business. And so what we did is the same thing we do in politics. We went out and researched. We have a partnership with the largest data and analytics collection information and customer collection company in the world. I mean, in the United States. And we went in and we did a complete psychographical research project on their customer base. And what we found was that their customers thought discounts were cheap, and that they didn't want to buy discounts, that they wanted to buy higher standard, that they wanted a quality product rather than a cheap perception of product. Sure. That they were actually bundling their services, the customers were, in the way we found in their research, that they were bundling their cable, their internet, and that's how they looked at discounts, because it's smarter and it's a higher standard. And that this was a family-owned business, and they had never told their family story before. And so what we ended up doing was completely changing their marketing program, because that's what the customers want, not what they want to talk about, what the customer wants.
Come on, preach it.
And we went in and put a whole new strategy. And before we went out and ran a bunch of ads and spent a ton of money, we tested a bunch of messages based on that research. And then we honed in on the one that was crushing everything. And we shoved all our chips on the table, and we've grown that company $2 million in the last 6 months. So it is now a $22 million company.
Wow.
They had lost $1.6 million in business on their marketing. So that has been the most gratifying thing, because what it said was the principles that we have employed in politics are now totally, they absolutely work in this kind of world, in this kind of disruptive economy.
Now, on the political side, you said get out the vote was your highlight there. Getting out the vote for President Bush?
Yes.
That was it.
Do you work on either side of the aisle, or do you only stick on one side of the aisle?
That's a good question, because I get asked this a lot. I think in right now, the ethics of our business is you pick a side. It doesn't mean you pick a side on issues, because you can have bipartisan issues, but on the candidate side, you go Republican or Democrat. But with Trump and the disruption is happening in politics too. Trump is a massive disruption in politics. And I can definitely see in the future that model is going to be disrupted, and people are going to work for candidates that represent their values, and they don't they're not across party lines. So I think that's coming for sure. But right now, the ethics of our business is pick a side.
What is one of the most common attributes that you've seen, or maybe characteristics that cross over between the successful candidates and successful business owners? Is there some crossover characteristics you've seen from each side?
One that is just so obvious, but it is so glaring, and it is personal relationships. Everybody in the world right now has a phone in front of their head, right? They've got their phone, they're scrolling through their phone.
Right.
And so every marketer comes out and says, well, you got to have a digital marketing strategy. Listen, I own 2 digital marketing agencies, and I'm telling you that's not the tip of the spear. Because in politics, the reason our candidates are so successful is they build a personal connection with the voters. And so what I try to get every business owner to do is figure out what these customers care about and build a connection both personally and through your creative. And when you do that, you have explosive results. And not many people are doing it right now. And it's crazy. I don't understand it. Listen, when you're competing with all of that digital marketing and all the ads, all the banners, all the videos, all that, people don't give a damn about your product unless they have a connection with you. So you've got to go build the connection first and use your marketing to reinforce that brand and reinforce that conversion. Because that's why people will watch a video, because they know who you are, not because it just randomly popped up on CNN when you wanted to watch a news video. Your
new book, your best-selling book, Fire Them Now. You break down 7 lies that digital marketers are telling people, and I'd really like for you to break a couple of these down here. Lie number 1 is a lie that you have experienced digital marketers selling to somewhat clueless consumers, is that you must sign a long-term contract and sometimes even fork over a huge signing bonus. Philip, can you break this down?
Yeah, so I talked about this just a little while ago, but on top of it, I had a friend of mine. So I interviewed over 100 CEOs for this book, and you guys know this. Every one of them came back with the same frustration.
Right.
Hey, we hired a marketing firm, and they sold us a bunch of things, and it didn't work out, and we didn't get any ROI, but they made money, but we didn't make money, so we fired them. Many times these CEOs had gone through 2 or 3 marketing agencies in the last 3 or 4 years. And so I started trying to figure out what are the common things that are the most frustrating parts that we would never do in politics, but marketers are doing now. And one of them is this long-term contract. And in fact, one of the guys I talked to is a VC guy out of Silicon Valley. And he said, hey, we hired this marketing agency to help all of our startups because we saw how important that was. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's really smart. And he said, yeah, they required we sign a $75,000 signing bonus to work with them. I went, well, hold on. The marketing agency asked for a signing bonus?
Come on.
He said, yeah. He said, and an 18-month contract. And I go, an 18-month contract? He goes, yeah. I go, well, what happened? He goes, well, after 9 months, everything was a complete failure. We had to fire him. I said, well, what happened to the last 9 months of the contract? Well, we had to pay it off. And I went, oh, my God, that would never happen in politics. Because like I said, every contract I've ever signed is month to month. And so when I introduced that as a marketing agency, my business marketing agency, when we went to clients and said, we're month to month. Either we prove it to you and we're growing your business or we're not around anymore. Every one of them went, what do you mean? I've never seen that one before. And I go, well, why are these businesses taking back control? Why don't they take control of their own business and be the marketing agency should make a ton of money only if the business makes a ton of money first.
Amen.
I don't want to slam all marketing agencies in Tulsa because that would not be ethical.
Well, yeah.
But I would say all the marketing agencies I've used, I would like to slam. So I have hired them, and there was one firm that I hired. I remember this. The guy says, we're going to help you with your logo. It was for the DJ business. And I said, okay. An unnamed guy, it's so far in the past, we can talk about it now, Philip. It's okay. It's in the past. He would come in like every 2 weeks with this new obscure logo. And I would say, well, what is this? And he's like, what it represents is he would kind of
The
talk in that
trust
sort of.
between-
It represents the trust between
Yeah.
the brides and the grooms, and I'd say, okay, I don't want to approve that. Could we meet next week to see another revision? And he'd say, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to talk to the team and brainstorm. We call it ideation. He called it
More
ideation.
meetings. More meetings.
Yes. So long story short, I'm not kidding. My wife could vouch for this. I dropped over $10,000 on a logo I wasn't happy with. My first marketing video I ever made for DJ Connection cost me well over $5,000. And all of these things were terrible. And so the reason why I built my firm, Make Your Life Epic, years ago, 12 years ago now, was that I just wanted to have a month-to-month thing where if I wanted some logos and print pieces, great. And if I liked you, then I'll keep using you. And I could never find any companies at all that operated that way. I couldn't find a single one. And as a DJ company, my first company, DJConnection.com, Philip, if I came to your Christmas party and I was trying to woo you and try to get your account, this was my pitch. And Philip, I'm not trying to pitch you because I'm no longer in the business. But
You
I would
might
say,
buy, though. You
I
might
would say,
buy.
Philip, your company's reputable. You guys are doing great. I'm sure you already have a DJ company. How happy were you with last year's entertainment on a scale of 1 to 10? And someone might say a 7 or an 8. And I said, okay, I would like to do this year's party for you, this year's Christmas party for $1. And you're like, $1? I said, yeah. And if you're happy, you can use me again. And for weddings, I'd tell people, I'll do your wedding for $1. And if you're happy, you can pay me the other $500. And that's how I got my first events. Because you did this. You had to do the same thing with your optometry clinic when you had crazy deals, low deals. So, because you're trying to get a lifetime buy-in from your clients. You want your clients to come back year after year, but you're not going to have an optometry patient sign a contract saying, I hereby swear to my glasses from Dr. Robert Zonos. But no one else does that.
No one else does that.
What's going on with these marketing firms?
It's crazy. I tell you what, especially these website companies. They're the ones they're the...
Philip, go off on website companies, please. Website companies.
Pain.
Philip, educate us.
Pain.
Well, yeah. Hey, we build websites too, but I will tell you this: that probably is a business owner's most frustrating point, right? All a website is a resume, right? And it needs to be a dynamic, and it needs to have people go, "Ooh, I'm very interested in what these people are." You guys said this earlier. Everybody is going. 90% of people are going on search to figure out what to buy. It's not. I always tell companies like they're searching for what they want, which is what you're providing. But it is the fact of this: when there is a menu of 10 companies that are competing for that customer's business, what makes you stand out? That is the whole point. And it is not. Everything comes back to building the personal relationship. Everything comes back to making them entertained, or for them to say, "I want to buy into that." One of the things I'll give you, because we spend a lot of money on research for clients. Any company that leads right now with that they give a portion of their profits to charity, that is crushing for clients right now. Because if you go in, let's just take a pest control company, and you're a pest control company, and somebody goes, "Oh my God, I got bugs in my house," and they go Google pest control company, and 20 companies come up, and you click on one, and it said, "Hey, we give a percentage of our profits to charity," then that customer is more likely I think I have stats. I cannot remember for the life of me because they're not in front of me.
By the way, there's a book called Cause written by Jackie Freiberg that breaks down Lululemon, Tom's Shoes. We've had her on the show. There's so much data that supports what you're saying. Sorry, back to you. I just want to tell you. Tell the Thrive Nation. Everybody, you're right.
And then if your website leads with, "Hey, this is our mission as a company," then you are it's like 68% more likely to convert that customer. So that's just one freebie that we've spent a lot of money to understand and how to do it properly. And think about this. There's going to be a downturn in the economy, guys. We all agree with this. We've gone way too long on this bull economy, right? And so if there is a downturn, what is going to be the difference that makes the difference for customers to choose you? And my thing is that a customer in a downturn of an economy can't give as much money away to charity. But if there's a company that they hire that gives money to charity, then that makes them feel good too. And they're more willing to hire you.
Philip, there's a lot of lies that marketing companies tell their customers. I'm going to have you break down lie number 4 here in just a second. But, Chup, this is a lie. Chup, without our permission, you've heard of Watergate, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Sure.
Chup
Yeah.
has done kind of the political theme. Chup has done Marketing Gate, where he, without their permission, has mic'd other marketing firms, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
set it up. So
Yeah.
and this is one of their tips that they said at one of their most recent
yeah.
pitches to a client. I'm going to cue it up. It's a little bit out there, but
Shocking.
we'll see if Phil, if you can break this down.
Probably my best tip is tip number 8. Always keep bags of your own poop. Collect it throughout your stay and just have it ready.
That's probably not a good idea. That's probably, okay.
We had to fire them after that. That was-
Self-fertilization.
Okay, so line number 4, Philip. Your product or service is amazing, so let's start there.
Right. Every business owner is you guys are business owners. How proud are you of your business? I'm dead serious. This isn't a joke. How proud are you of what you've created, what you've built?
Very proud.
Scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 10.
Yeah, 10. I'm at 11.
Too many
12.
times business owners think that way, and then they go, well, I just need to tell people how great my product and service is because it is great. I created it.
Yeah.
13.
That doesn't mean the customer wants it. Or what if it converts 20% of the time, but if you understood what the customer really wanted out of your product, if you knew what drove them, if you knew what platforms they went to more than anything else, and you could then change that 20% conversion rate to 60% conversion rate, why wouldn't you do it? And every marketer goes in there and just, we see this a lot in politics too, by the way. Oh my gosh, you are one heck of a politician. My God, you could be president one day. So my point is that I go by what the data says, what the customer says, their purchasing decisions, their reasons and the motivations behind why they buy these things. And we build campaigns based on that, not on how great your product and service is. By the way, if the customer thinks their product and service is great, like Apple, well, then that's what we're going to do. But that's not usually what happens. And I think people forget in politics, it's all about the voter. That's all we care about. What does the voter think? I love the politician, but what does the voter think? I've got to convince the voter. And if that's your mentality, then all you're thinking about is, what does the customer think? And that's the first thing I go in and talk to businesses about.
Philip, you're a very, very successful guy, and obviously you probably made a few mistakes along the way. If you had to go back and give yourself some powerful old school advice,
Hans
you could
and
go back and
Franz.
talk to a younger version of yourself and say, younger self, this is you.
Hans, this is Franz. I'm yourself.
10 years
Had to
back.
bump you up.
What advice would you give the 10-year younger version of yourself?
Yeah, I don't think I really became. I don't think I led the right way until my late 30s, and I probably would go back and try to figure out my own psychology so that I could serve people better. But I have to say this: I don't know if I'd give that person advice because I'm here where I am because of the mistakes and the idiocracy that I employed in my own personal life and my own business life for so long that eventually I think I came out of this much stronger and better than I could have had I avoided those mistakes.
What a great political answer. You should be president of the United States of America.
Unbelievable. I'd vote for him right
too.
now.
Well,
I
that's a
swear.
great
there.
answer.
Let's just start there.
Let's just
Now,
start right there.
you have been very purposeful about designing your life. How do you spend the first 4 hours of your typical day there, Philip?
I'm on the road a lot, so every day is different. And, I had this crazy routine where I get up at 4:30 and I do TM and I work out and then I have breakfast with my family and then I go to work and I spend the first 2 hours of work studying or reading every single day because I think that's the difference that makes the difference in growing a company. But when I do that, I get so crazily focused and so manic in trying to maintain that kind of routine that I neglect sometimes the own people in my life. And so what I've tried to learn to do is just kind of diversify that morning. So some mornings I do that. Some mornings I sleep in with my wife. Some mornings I just have breakfast with my little girl and take her to school. Other mornings I'm on the road. I would tell you, everybody has their own routine. I would prefer to get up at 4:30 and do everything I said, but that's probably not the best thing for me. So I spice it up a little bit and change it up.
I want to offer a little editorial for the listeners out there who are going, he's preaching against a routine. Work with me. Philip, can it be said that your default is one of intensity and maniacal obsession over something?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, see, and it can be said that, you can get that way and I can get that way too, where it's like, if you hone in on a goal, if one of our skills is we can put on blinders and then delay gratification until we get there. But I think if we're being honest, if we're not careful,
Always
see, you have
work
3
for-
kids.
Right, that does work for your family, right?
Right, and I'm saying, so again, it's I think for anybody out there who's listening, and your default setting is not putting on blinders, and your default setting is sleeping until noon when possible, and not doing your to-do lists, you probably want to have the reverse strategy. But you want to know thyself. I think that's the big idea. Know thyself. Philip, your book here, your book here is a Fire Them Now. The name of the book, Fire Them Now. What inspired you to write Fire Them Now? And what is this book about at its core?
It is the fact that I had this disease, and I stuck my head in the sand, and then I kept seeing the economy change, and I kept seeing businesses that weren't innovative, and I kept seeing the things that we did in politics and how we could translate them over to businesses. And then we tried a couple experiments and had great results. And I went, my God, this is incredible. And then I started talking to CEOs who said, I've had my head in the sand. I know the economy's changing. I don't know how the marketing world is working anymore. I just hired a digital marketing agency because I don't know. The rules change every 5 seconds. They change every 5 minutes. Facebook has one thing one day, and all of a sudden they completely change the rules on you. And they said, I just hired somebody, and then all of a sudden those guys took all our money and we didn't make anything. And I went, and I just kept saying this frustration in the marketplace. And I just went, man, somebody has to tell the story of how we kind of get it right in politics and political marketing. And then the one thing I will never forget, I was in China with Peter Diamandis, and I was sitting on a bus going to, I think, Tencent, the company Tencent. And I was sitting next to a Fortune 500 CEO. And again, I was interviewing him for the book, and he's telling me the exact story I just told you. And I looked over at him and I went, good God, man, just fire them now. And I went, ooh.
Book title.
And that's a true story. I really said it to him, and I was like, but that should be the title. And so that's where it came from.
So you said TM. I believe you were referring to transcendental meditation.
Yes.
Do you do meditation time? Do you do this every day?
Twice a day for 20 minutes.
Where are you when you do this, and what does this look like?
I bought a nice chair, and I sit in it, and I usually wear a hat, throw the hat over my head, put my timer on, tell my staff, please, I'm going to meditate, leave me alone. And that's usually how it happens.
And what are you doing when you meditate? I mean, what does that look like? What do you?
Yeah, transcendental meditation, you just say a mantra for 20 straight minutes, and it sounds awful unless you kind of understand it. And then what I realized is, you guys said this earlier, like I can't turn my brain off ever. So it is a chance for me to turn my brain off twice a day and recharge my batteries.
Can you share maybe one of the mantras you've said in the past?
Well, no, it's one mantra. That's all I ever say. I repeat it over and over again. And in the TM world, that it's kind of you're the only person that ever knows it.
Okay. Well, I this is what I believe you said, and I know that I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to guess. And you can't tell me if I'm actually getting it right here. But this is what I think you said. Here we go. I'm a beautiful man, and people like me. My name is Philip Stutz. I'm a beautiful man, and people like me. That's what I think you should be saying.
Close.
I mean,
if it's not, it's close.
Well, it's
I feel
accurate.
like
It's true.
I just had you know what? I feel recharged right now. And you only did it for like 5 seconds.
Do you exfoliate, Philip?
I don't even know what that is.
Your skin's looking good. Are you drinking a lot of fish oil over there?
I'm pouring it down my throat while we talk.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go.
Okay. And now, Z, I would like to ask Philip here. I have one final question for Philip. Z, I'm sure you do as well. But Philip, this is my final question for you. For the listeners out there who they listen to our podcast because we really do try to get the who's who on the show. You know, we've had Pastor Craig Rochelle, the pastor of the largest Protestant church in America. We've had the best PR guy in the history of America, at least for the Hollywood, the PR guy for Michael Jackson, Nike, and Prince, Michael Levine. We've had the former head of Harley Davidson on the show. We've had a lot of big names. And you are sort of like the leader of the political marketing world. So I give you the floor, my friend. What advice would you give for all of the listeners out there? What's something you want to share with all of the listeners who are they're taking notes? You can share with the Thrive Nation anything you want.
Yeah, I think if you are a business owner or you're a marketer out there and you're like, how do I take the first step, or what is my company doing right? What could they improve upon? I will absolutely, for free, for your listeners, if they go to philipstutz.com/audit. It's a free 5-minute marketing audit. We've seen our businesses, or the businesses that have taken it, grow up to 50% just by the recommendations we make. Basically, my team will spend 2 to 3 hours going over your publicly available digital footprint. We'll go through it, figure out what you're doing right, what you can improve. We'll put together a 6-page report, and we'll do a 30-minute consultation, all for free. You don't have to hire us, but that's basically what we're able to offer to help businesses that are either stuck, because that's kind of how I am purpose-driven and focused right now, or those that are doing really well. We'll tell them they're doing great. And by the way, if they have a marketing agency that isn't working for them, we'll tell them what works and what should work and how they can go back and talk to their marketing agency about improvement.
Wow, that's like a Christmas. It's like a Christmas present wrapped up. What's that website again?
It's philipstutz.com/audit.
Holy cow!
2 L's in Philip. Now I have a brother that's a Philip, and he's only 1 L, and he's very.
That's awful. You should get rid of him.
Well, so 2
Fire
L's.
him now.
And then Stutz has 3 T's, Stutts, right? So Philip Stutz. Now I've got a question for you, and I know this is not a political show, but you are on the end. You know stuff.
You know
stuff.
He knows a guy.
You know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. So I'm going to ask you, in your humble opinion. His humble opinion. I'll tell you what. Tell us what. I would like for you to make me a deal I can't refuse. Okay, here we go. Okay. That offer was free. I can't refuse that. I got to get my thing down about the thing. What's the thing? What's the question? Is Trump going to win re-election?
I'm looking at a crystal ball right now, and I'll tell you, it says it's 50-50.
Oh, God.
That's a politician.
Oh, my gosh. You should be our next president. Come on.
Stutz
Come on.
The honest answer is don't underestimate the guy. Every time they count him out, he comes back. The easy prediction is he's going to get crushed, and he usually beats with the easy prediction.
Philip, I hope you don't mind here, but I actually inserted a microphone into your offices today, and somebody asked Philip earlier off the show. They said,
off the show.
Philip, when you think of Donald Trump, what first comes to your mind? And this is what Philip allegedly said.
You know what they say. See a broad to get that booty yak 'em, leg her down or smack 'em, yak 'em.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
It sounds a lot like an excerpt from the airplane.
It's political jumbo.
I'm old enough to have seen that movie, so I definitely remember it.
Nice.
Okay, well, hey, Philip, thank you so much for being on the show. We like to end each and every show with a boom, which stands for big, overwhelming, optimistic momentum. Philip, are you prepared to bring a boom?
Let's bring it.
Chup, are you ready?
Let's do this.
Z, are you psychologically prepared?
I'm prepared.
Chup, are you physically prepared?
No, never.
Okay. Here we go. And 3, 2, 1, boom! If you are like most humans that I know, when you see 2 gas stations and one sells gas for a little bit less and they're next to each other, you might go for the one that sells gas for less money. It makes sense. Every little bit can help.
I don't really agree with that. I like to spend as much money as I possibly can on fossil fuels. It's just something I'm into,
But here's what's weird, though. Sometimes we save a few pennies here and there and ignore opportunities to save huge money. I'm talking about life-changing money. If you switch today, as an example, to Medi-Share for your health care, it could be a massive savings for you and your family. The typical savings for a family is about $500 a month. I repeat, $500 a month. I have a quick question. So when you said you could save like $500 a month, are you talking about actually being able to save $500 a month? Yes, that's why I said the number. You can actually save $500 a month. Just think about that for a second. What would you do with all that extra money? Thrivers, you could be buying a flat screen every single month. That's 12 flat screens a year, $6,000 per year, or 12 flat screens per year. Well, I have been trying to save up for 12 flat screens, and this seems to be the most reasonable, prudent way to do it. And yes, people love it. They love it because it works. It's believers who share each other's healthcare costs. And now with over 400,000 people, aka members of Medi-Share, again, with over 400,000 members, there's proof it works. And it's growing like crazy. It would be like having a 7-foot-tall third grader in your family. It's like growing like a weed. It is taking off. Find out how much you could save and why Metashare is so popular. Go to metashare.com/Clay. That's Metashare, MEDI share.com/Clay. Or call them at 844-25-SHARE for more info. That's 844-25-SHARE.